Hey guys, what's up? It's Coach Carroll. Welcome to another episode here in the Sales Factory. I got my man, Alex Shattuck. Shatty boy. I got him here in the podcast studio, the virtual studio, because you know everything's over Zoom nowadays. But I'm super excited to have this guy. You all might know him from the Five Guys. No, not the Burger Insurance, but they were on tour for a while. That's how I know the guy. And I said, man, come hang out with me in the Sales Factory. Let's put these people on game. So you guys get your notepads ready. Turn the headphones up. Alex Shattuck, welcome to the Sales Factory, my man. How you doing today, baby?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I love that you gave me a nickname.
I was playing with that beforehand, you know, with these Sennheiser microphones. I'm like, Shattuck. It sounds nice and fresh. So I don't know, man. I just rolled with it.
So. Way worse. So I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Love it, man. If you guys don't know Al, as a lot of people refer to him as Alex, he's a captive agent for Big Red. He's got 3 offices. He is also just an entrepreneur like myself. He's got a recruiting business called Autopilot Recruiting. It's got a couple books behind it. You got some books you written as well. Like, this dude's just a straight hustler. But, you know, that's the MO. Coach Carroll bringing you guys the best of the best in the Sales Factory. And so we'll talk a little bit today about recruiting. We'll talk about running multiple offices. We'll talk about his entrepreneur journey. He's also found out a father of 4. So he was over here, you know, giving me the pep talk of like, you can do it, man. 2's not too bad, you know. You know, it's funny, Alex, we were talking about that off camera. I had one of my buddies down at the Pendennis Club. He told me, he said, man, having 1 kid's not parenting. That's 2-on-1 defense. He said 2 kids ain't even really parenting. That's man coverage. When you got to start going 2-3 zone or 2-4 zone, now you're parenting. And I think that's what you were alluding to before you hopped on here.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely becomes a little more challenging as you add bodies, but I won't take anything away from having 1 kid either. It's kind of like, you know, you mentioned multiple offices. If you have 1 business, 1 agency, that you got a lot on your plate. So no, I wouldn't take anything away from you having 1 at this point.
Nah, man, we love it. It's been such awesome. I know the listeners are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but I can't help it, man. I'm like a proud dad now, so it's been fun. But man, I'm excited to have you today for the limited time that I got you. I know you got a ton of knowledge inside that dome of yours. I've seen you speak. You're a great presenter. You give really good information, and you're also a veteran as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, Marine Corps.
Yeah,
Iraq.
man. All right. Appreciate your service. My wife, Tori, as the listeners know, she did 6 years in the Air Force. So my dad was in the Army. So we definitely appreciate your military service, man. And I love seeing when heroes come back home and start businesses, man. Because it's like, you know, I told a guy one time I went to high school with, he was in Afghanistan. He came home, and I said, hey, man, I appreciate everything you do. Like, you let me do what I'm doing. He's like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, dude, that's what fighting for the freedom is. Freedom of free enterprise. Like, that's what makes America great, man. The power of free enterprise. Jim Rome probably taught that better than anybody. And so I'm excited to hop in this thing, man. Let's back up. Give everybody, since this is your first time, we won't have to do this every time you come in the Sales Factory, but the first time I always like to give them a little bit of background. So kind of give us an insight of, you know, who Alex is for people that don't know you, or this is their first time hearing from you or meeting you.
Yeah, man. All right. Let's see. How far back do I go? You already mentioned the 4 kids, also married with 4 kids, multiple businesses, multiple agencies. Rewind time a little bit. I started working for an insurance agent, back in 2009. And so I started in the industry working for an agent and selling insurance, right? Just like a lot of us. And eventually took over an agency and then went scratch with my second location.
Wow.
Then took over the third a little over a year ago. And yeah, Autopilot Recruiting was something that had been created kind of on accident. I was always kind of, I guess, called on to chat with agents about recruiting and what I do and how I've been able to staff my agencies and grow it and all that fun stuff. And so I started speaking on the topic of recruiting way back when and started traveling and doing that thing. And I still do. But I kept getting feedback from agents saying, hey, man, I'd rather just pay somebody to do it. I love what you're saying, but I'd rather just pay somebody. Do you have anything to refer us to? And there wasn't really anything that I could point to that was a continuous approach to recruiting, a lot of one time pay this, get that businesses, and that's fine. There's a place for that in the industry, but I really believe truly that it has to be continuous, it has to be every single day, it has to be forever. And so I decided to try to create it, and it went from one agent to two, and then three, and then now we're pushing 1,800
Holy
agents,
smokes,
and also
man.
and then also a whole slew of businesses outside the insurance industry too. And so
Wow.
we do it for some big businesses, a lot of small businesses primarily, but all types of industries. And so it's helping thousands, and business owners, helping thousands find employment, and I'm also employing 150 on that team.
Wow.
And so it's really, the impact is tremendous with how many people it helps. And
That's
I'm having a lot of
wild,
fun with
man.
it too. And of course it's not a nonprofit organization, so I make a few bucks also, and that's an added bonus.
Free, God bless free enterprise, my man.
Yeah.
So the 1,800, you say you're outside of industries. We got, listen, so just so you know, man, the Sales Factory listeners that are tuned in right now, dude, this could be a 13-year-old kid that just bought his first lawnmower and is like,
Sweet.
I like Coach Carroll, so I'm gonna go learn some shit and try to make some money. Or I mean, it could be a dude that's running a mega agency, or anywhere in between, right? I always say the Sales Factory is entrepreneur and sales focus for blue collar, white collar, no collar. I'm from Kentucky,
yeah.
bro. I'm not even wearing shoes right now. No, I'm just joking. But so maybe somebody could reach out to you guys then, right? Even if they're not in the insurance space, you might. We're not saying that could offer their vertical, but that could be an option if they're having a hard time recruiting, right?
Absolutely. It's worth a conversation. So
Cool, man.
autopilotrecruiting.com. But hey, you mentioned a 13-year-old. My first business, to go back in time, I was in 6th grade, so I was 12. And I started a lawn care business when I was 12. And it was called the AJS Mowing. My initials, AJS Mowing. That's as creative as I could get. But and when I say business, I use that term loosely. I mowed some lawns and I charged some money.
Yeah.
And so I'll count it.
Yeah,
I made some flyers. I went around like door to door putting out flyers, and just I literally would drive like this little mower around town to different places that would hire me, or push the mower down the road, and whatever. So that's funny you said that.
That's
I had forgotten
crazy,
about that until
man.
now.
You know what's nuts is like Nick Saka is a big Allstate agent out in Vegas. He had a lawn and landscape. Like, I mean, the number of people that I've interviewed that have had lawn and landscape businesses early on in their career, I think it teaches you entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? You had to make a flyer. That's some marketing. You had to talk to somebody. That's some sales. You had to back end fulfill the orders, right? It's operations. Like, it's such a good way for people to learn entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this in an interview before, that I think entrepreneurship is kind of like the key to freedom. And I know not everyone is going to be able to unlock that door, because it's tough, dude. Like, you're talking about running an off, your side hustle. I wouldn't call it a side hustle, 150 fucking people, right? But it's like, it's not your insurance business which is like was your main focus. But like 150 people are like, not everybody is cut out to be able to be a leader at that capacity. And I understand that. That's not lost on me. And I always say entrepreneurship is kind of like fireworks. It should be given with a word of caution, because you can blow your hand off, right? You could lose your life. You could lose your livelihood. People lose their houses all the time trying to start a business. But if entrepreneurship is the key to freedom, dude, how crazy to live your entire life and never try it. That's why I'm like, it's not for everybody, but I think everybody should try it. That's my little stick on entrepreneurship. But what happened after Al's made his lawn care business debut? Obviously you guys went. You got married. How long have you and your wife been married?
Oh,
pop
man,
quiz.
We got married young. 18, 17 years, something like that.
Okay.
And we got married. I was 21, and we both were 21.
Wow.
In the Marines and stuff, you see that a lot. And for us, fortunately, we're still going for it.
That's good,
so,
man.
A lot of times when you get married young like that, it doesn't always work out. We've made it work, and it's been good. So
that's cool, man.
Kids are healthy and everything, so no complaints. But so pushing a couple of decades.
That's cool, man.
Makes me feel older than I am.
If you guys are listening to the audio-only version on the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe and leave us a review, by the way. But he's got this banner up behind him that says "Complacency Kills." Looks like maybe you got a hat on that says "Complacency Kills" as well, right? You're rocking the merch, man. Is that a little Kurt Cobain there around the corner, too, I think. Looks like maybe. Is that who's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish you could see the rest of my office here at home. I have a lot of interesting things on my walls. But, I'm a big... Kurt guy, the Complacency Kills.
Talk to me about that
logo. There's a story there. I don't know if you care to hear it.
I would love to hear it, man. Especially
Yeah,
because
so
it's a
that's the
skull
logo.
and crossbones. So it's, I mean, I don't
Right.
think this is going to be like you were walking through the rose garden picking flowers one day and came up with this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it starts back in Fallujah, Iraq, and man, I haven't told the story in a little while, but I think I could
Okay.
probably still spit it out. And essentially, Fallujah, as you probably remember, wasn't exactly the place that you would want your loved ones to end up at. If you had loved ones in the military at that time, it's kind of one of those cities that you wouldn't want to see him or her in. And this is 2006, when I arrived, and yeah, I mean, it was just everywhere you went. We lived in the city, and then we lived south, just the south end of the city. And where we were every single time we stepped out of the building that we occupied, we couldn't leave the structure that we were living in without having our full flak jacket on, Kevlar helmet on, our magazine inserted in the M16 and round in the chamber, just to step outside into like where you would use like the porta john, if you will. We call it a porta shitter. I don't know if you can say porta shitter.
Yeah, dude, it's the Sales Factory podcast.
So,
We're
yeah,
good.
I mean, so if you were out there at all doing anything, even where you're supposed to be somewhat safe, you were all geared up, flak jacket,
Wow.
all that. And that was before you even stepped outside the wire, outside of like the walls that you're within to go on patrol. And then from there, it's just like, every step, every turn, we knew at that time could potentially be our last. The IED threat, which are roadside bombs, were that was real. That was out there. Small arms fire, sniper fire, in addition to just random small arms fire. Mortars were a thing. You have kids that would throw grenades in Fallujah. That was a thing.
Jeez.
RPGs, like there was just threats around every corner. And going back to that logo you're looking at in my hat and the book and the flag, Complacency Kills, that came from a different base. So we would sometimes leave the city of Fallujah to get resupplied. We take a convoy out of the city to the outskirts to a much bigger base. There was Camp Bahariya, Camp Fallujah outside of the city, and those were really big bases. And so when you would cross over those tall walls with armed guards letting you in, you could then at that point unload your weapon, take off your flak jacket, take off your Kevlar helmet, and just like breathe for
Take a deep
few
breath.
minutes, right? You can kind of relax a little bit. And they had a chow hall so you could get some real food. They had working phones and working internet so you could go and maybe make a phone call home or check your email to see what was up back home. And at some points it was, first time in not just days, but weeks that we could pull that off.
Wow.
But again, it was a very short-lived little mission. We'd get what we had to get, maybe eat something, maybe call home, whatever. And then we would gear back up and load up in the Humvees and start making that trip back to the exit. And the last image that we would see as we got to those walls with the tall walls, armed guards, was a very comparable image to what you're looking at, which was a big skull and crossbones and the words "Complacency Kills." And it was just that final reminder to all of us that once you cross back over, you're not in that safe space where you could let your guard down and breathe a little bit. It's game on. Your head's on a swivel. You can't take anything lightly. And it's one of those worlds where if you do, you don't have your A game on that day, it could be very devastating for those around you and yourself, obviously, too. So just that final reminder. And the Complacency Kills theme, I kind of forgot about it when I got home, and some years went by, and this is, so now you're looking at, 2007, 8, 9. I started to get a little complacent back here at home. And I don't know at what point exactly, but there was some point where I thought about that image and those words, "Complacency Kills." And I started thinking about the experiences that I had, that we all went through, and what we've accomplished. And man, I realized I wasn't really applying any of that stuff here at home. Like anything that was going to help myself, help my family, help my future. And if anything, those experiences were probably hindering my ability to be successful here at home as I struggled in a lot of areas. And I started to take the approach of applying that mindset of complacency kills here at home. And what I found in the years following was the simple truth that complacency doesn't just kill in the war zone. Complacency kills here at home too, right? It kills our finances. It kills our health. It kills our relationships. What's that?
I don't know if you can hear my sound effects. I got a little cash register, and so anytime knowledge gets dropped, bro, I say take that one to the bank. That one right there, it'll kill you in the war zone, but it'll kill you at home too. That is
your health,
ooh.
businesses, relationships, you name it, finances. And so again, once I started to kind of take that approach here at home, I noticed things started to get a little better here at home. Surprise, surprise. And so I, my first book I wrote, I named Complacency Kills with that theme in mind. And I go deeper into that concept, and wow. that book is for all small businesses. But
Where can we find that book, Al? Is that online? Is that on
what?
Amazon, or is it still for sale?
That one might not be on Amazon at the moment. My recruiting book is, but where you can find both is autopilotrecruiting.com. So
Okay, cool.
they have the books. They actually have the swag too. Autopilotrecruiting.com. There's a swag. There's a shop there where if you ever wanted to get a hat or a shirt or whatever,
nice.
I dig it. I like skulls. I don't know if you can see, I actually have a tattoo version, on the back of my left arm. I have a handful of different tattoos, but that's one of them. It's funny. When I went to my tattoo guy, I had this vision for it, and I wanted it right on my main part of my arm that's more visible. And he's a cool dude, man. His name's Stu, and he's in the Lansing area up here in Michigan, and he's kind of talking through this idea, and it says complacency kills, and it's kind of intertwined into a cool, scary skull, even much more detail than what you're looking at behind me. And where I wanted it, he's like, hey man, just so you know, you're going to be trying to sell insurance and shit. And the customer, all they're going to see is the word kills popping out of the bottom of your arm. I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So we put it on the back. So when you do see the word kills popping out in the skull, at least you have a chance to.
It's as you're walking out the door and you already sold the policy. So it doesn't matter,
right?
So
I'm walking out, they see it. Who the hell is this guy's problem? But I figured maybe having kills in front of all my customers and prospects in the future could be a problem. So,
dude, that is an awesome story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I've got buddies that have been over there, and you guys saw some terrible shit, man. Like you said, kids throwing hand grenades. It's hard to even fathom what some of those guys went through, and the people that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So again, appreciate your service, man. Appreciate you sharing that story. And I think it is a wake up call, right? It's that's why I don't buy into the whole kumbaya, let's hold hands together. I'm a super competitive person because I played football, and after football, it's obviously I'm not trying to make any comparison before the people hop in my fucking comments and blow me up on this. I'm not making any comparisons to me playing football was Al kicking indoors in Fallujah. No, I understand. This is completely different. What I'm saying is that when you have that competitiveness, once you get taken to a heightened level like that where you got to strap in and understand complacency kills, it's you almost a piece of you has to die inside for you just to be this oh, kumbaya, everything's great. No, if you're a high intensity person, man, don't apologize for that shit. Al's rocking it, bro, rocking it on his skin, rocking it on his hat, rocking it on the banner in the background. Be locked in. And I think honestly, Al, I'd love your opinion on this, of the world that we live in today is very much this well, just sit down and just relax and chill. And I think the chill is the problem. I think maybe we've got a little too much chill, and people are going broke and just sitting and watching their lives go by versus actually taking responsibility for their actions and their decisions and doing something with their life. Would love your take on that, man.
I don't disagree at all. The way I've raised my kids, I think I take a little different approach than most parents, just because I am cut from that cloth. I feel there's fewer and fewer people cut from that cloth every day, and that's a real problem, and it will be a bigger problem, I think, long term. And I don't mind the football comparison at all. In fact, I think again, I also will say there's a clear difference between the two. However, I've spoken to youth football teams, high school level football teams on this theme of complacency kills, because so much is applicable, in sports, in life, on the football field. And so the message is something that you can connect those two. And I do believe some of the things that I loved about football myself and sports in general is also what I loved about the military, that camaraderie, that in it together piece, that nothing else really matters except us in this moment. And that's something, when you hang it up playing football or in the military, you're never going to have an opportunity like that. It's exactly like that, right? You can play golf later in life. You can't go play football at our age, right? You could try. It's going to be
catch a domestic violence charge real quick.
Well, there's either you're going to get hurt, you're going to catch a case, or both. And so it's not. There's certain things that we just can't do anymore. In the military, same thing. That ship sailed.
Yeah, man.
Even though there's certain times where it's man, I wonder if I could still. No, it's not really. The ship sailed, but business. That's what's fun. And I think from what I've seen and heard of you. And just our conversation today, I know there's a direct correlation between being a competitor, wanting to win, wanting to be the best and whatever, and that's something within business and sales that every single day we can wake up and compete.
Yeah, man.
And that's how, when it comes to recruiting and trying to find really good competitive people that want to actually do the job the way that you're talking about, like, man, you can sell them on that opportunity of, look, you can go clock in and clock out down the road and make the same or more starting out with maybe better benefits, and maybe it's a little sexier role for your friends and family to talk to you about over Thanksgiving in the fall. But man, you're going to drive yourself nuts, because in 10 years, you're going to be doing the same thing, making the same amount of money just about, and you're going to hate your life. And so how can you wake up every single day doing something that you don't love to do, or at least get really excited about doing for whatever reason? And that, to me, that's just not a way to live. I think that one thing about the military is it's given me like a healthy understanding and even fear, just recognizing that our time here on earth is limited, right? It's finite.
Ooh. Take it.
And so why would you wake up and not do something to the fullest extent that you could possibly do it, and also preferably something that you love to do? And creating businesses, creating jobs, competing and winning is something that I get really excited about.
Yeah, man.
I don't have a ton of hobbies outside of stuff like we're talking about today and doing today. I'd rather spend my time with you than on the golf course, quite frankly, talking on Zoom or whatever this platform is.
It's on all the major podcast, Apple's, iTunes, you know.
There you go. Apple, iTunes, subscribe now.
No, man, I love that, and you're right, dude. Like, once you're a competitor, you're a competitor. You know, like I told my team, it'd be so easy. We grew 60% last year. It'd be so easy just to be like, hey, man, let's just take it easy, right? It's like, nah, bro. I'm ready to win another championship, you know. And whether you like Patrick Mahomes or not, what that guy's talk about, right? He won his championship, and they're like, hey, how's it feel, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, that's good, but, like, this is just the start of the dynasty. Like, dude just won the Super Bowl. It doesn't have any complacency, right? Like, if there was ever a time to have complacency, it would be after you win this. And the dude's like, nah, we're going to celebrate tonight, but, like, this is just the start of the dynasty. And I think it's just, you know, it's a different breed, and I think it's just a different person, man, personality makeups, but the competition, that's what I miss the most about football. I mean, obviously I miss hitting people, but you can't really do that anymore, without pads on. But the competitiveness, man, of going out and winning championships, and like that's what I tell my teams. Like I want a championship caliber team to go win championships with, because like what else are we doing here? Like, if it's not, I'm reading Bob Proctor's last book, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. I don't know if you've read that yet, but he just wrote it. It was kind of sad, man. He, in the audiobook, one of the clips, it's kind of like a series of interviews. He says, I hope to be doing this for another 10 years. And he died that very next year after he put that book out. And it's like, oh, damn, to be there cognitively, to be there, like having everything going on in your business and thinking you got another 10 years. I think that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. It's like, I mean, it's fleeting, bro. It could be gone tomorrow. And so it's like, if I'm going to wake up and do something, I'm going to do something I'm passionate about with the people that I want to build with. Life is way too short to be complacent, to put a bow on that.
No, you're spot on. I mentioned my room has a lot of different things in it that you can't see, and you see Cobain behind me, but I also have a big portrait of Tupac, across the way. And the reason for that is because he packed so much into the short life that he lived. If you just look at the number of albums, at least the amount of music he put out to create albums after the fact, even, and the movies, and an absurd amount of qualifications and success in a very limited amount of time. If you look at the years he was actually doing it, unbelievable. And so it's a cool reminder of just that you have more you can give, and why not give it? Why not? And certain people like Patrick Mahomes, he gets it, and a lot of people would watch an interview like that and say, why can't he just like chill and appreciate? And he probably does appreciate, but he also appreciates the journey that took him to get there. And so to him, it's not work. He's not waking up the next day like upset he has to wake up the next day to do whatever he was going to do towards the next championship. But that's what he enjoys. And so sometimes it's like, no one messes with you for going golfing or whatever you're into. And not to throw shade at golf or whatever people do, but also don't throw shade at Patrick Mahomes or you or me for doing what we love, which isn't necessarily golf, but stuff like we're talking about today.
Yeah. I always say, be careful measuring your goals with another person's yardstick, because a lot of times people go, whoa, why isn't he happy? He just won the Super Bowl. Well, fuck, dude, if your goal is to win 10 of those motherfuckers, one's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem is when people are like, well, he should be happy he won the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, because your fat ass sits on the couch and eats potato chips all day and you couldn't imagine going to one single NFL practice. This guy's goal is to be bigger than Tom Brady. I really truly believe just like it was the 2 run plays in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl or not, but the 2 times he ran for decent chunks of yardage, I'm like, that dude is playing to win this fucking Super Bowl today. Like, it literally, that was the thing where I seen, because in the first half, bro, they were kind of scrambled. Like, I know a lot of guys are like hedge betting the under because like they took the over 40 and then like nobody scores points. And I really think it is so important. If you're listening to this right now, do not measure your goals with someone else's yardstick. Somebody that could never be at Patrick Mahomes' level does not get to be the echo chamber to say like, oh God, you should just take your wins and be happy, right? That's why like it used to kill me, man. I grew up in a small town, and when I started, everybody was like, rah rah DJ, go with your little landscaping business, and until I put up $1 million, and then I put up $2 million. Well, then it was, DJ's the cocky, arrogant kid now. It was like, well, what's he know? He's so full of himself. And it's funny, people will root for you when your goals are below where they're at. And then once you surpass them, and not everybody, but a lot of the people, especially on the internet, we love all our trolls on Twitter, the people on the internet, like, they love to kick the can out from underneath your feet, dude, and laugh and watch it make you fall. I think it's big. It's a very, very important that you believe in yourself when no one else does. That's the first step, because you're going to hit adversity. You're going to hit adversity in business. You're going to hit adversity in anything you do, even if you take a job. Even if you're not the entrepreneur, you're just being the salesperson, or you want to be the next production manager at the company you're in. You're going to have adversity. I think the difference between champions and everybody else is how you handle that adversity.
Yeah, I think there's some real truth to that. I love what you said about the comparing the goals thing, and I think guys like you and I and as business owners and competitors, that also works in reverse too. We have to make sure we're remaining humble enough to acknowledge the fact that we might want to wake up and just attack the day every day. Yeah. But that the people that are wired like that, it's a small percentage of the population. And so, we got to understand that too. So we don't drive ourselves crazy and drive everybody else crazy. But when we're working with, I know you work with a lot of business owners on for a lot of reasons, coaching, speaking, marketing, everything. And so I think there's a balancing act to be had about with recognizing what they're saying their goals are, but also trying to peel back the layers to make sure that what they're saying is actually true and accurate. And also they understand the impacts of what they're saying, right? So example, an agent most recently, not to me, said it to someone on my team that, I get continuous recruiting. I get what he's saying. I get the message. But I just liked being average. I just like being average, middle of the pack, man. I'm good at the middle of the pack.
Somebody said this?
Someone said that, not to me, but someone on my team when they were leaving the service. And if they believe that to be true, and it is true, I am okay with that. I truly am. However, what they need to understand is when you if you're a business owner and you're content with average, middle of the pack, you also have to understand what you're leaving on the table. Right. So if you might make 100,000 a year, you might make $1 million a year, but if you're making 100,000 and you could make $1 million, you just left 900,000 on the table. If you're making $1 million, it could be 10 million. You left $9 million on the table. And so, yeah, if I just don't want someone to think this is what I'm going to say because it's easy, and I'm going to convince myself that that's normal. Right. Just like regardless of how fit someone is, for the most part, if you could just push a button and be more fit, most people would push the button. Right? If you could have an 8-pack from your 6-pack and you could push a button, you'd probably push the button. And so don't say you don't want the 8-pack, you don't want the 6-pack, you don't want the 4-pack. You just don't want to put in the work to get to the 4-pack. And it's easier to say, or the 6-pack or the 8. It's easier to say, I don't want that for myself.
Ooh.
Well, if you could push a button, you'd push the button. Yeah. So don't tell me you don't want that for yourself. And you're saying you're good with 100,000. Okay. But if you could push a button and make it $1 million, you're telling me you wouldn't push the button. So it's not, you don't want $1 million. You just don't want to push all of the buttons that you have to push, because there's a lot of buttons you have to push, and it's a lot harder than just pushing a button.
Yeah, man. I like that. We did a little cha-ching on that one too. You guys can take that one to the bank. Because listen, I mean, it does come down to the fact that I'm not for everybody, Al, and I have learned that, and I'm totally okay with that. It's one of those things where, and I think man, I just feel like we're sliding down this slippery slope in this world where it's like, don't be offensive. And like, if you're too aggressive, you want to be too successful, like, you can offend somebody. I literally was on a call with a guy yesterday. He's an agent, and this will probably cringe and turn some people off. But literally, like, after 15 minutes, I was like, hey man, I gotta go. I gotta hop on another call. He's like, well, don't rush me off the phone. I'm like, the fuck you think you're talking to? First, I didn't say that. I just kind of internalized that a little bit. And I was like, hey man, you scheduled a 15-minute call. I got another call right behind this. I got to run. And he was like, well, I think your pricing's a little high. Would you offer a discount? And I was like, dude, no, and I don't have time to get into that. We don't offer discounts. Like, the pricing is what it is. And he said, well, maybe I'll just find somebody else to work with. Like, trying to like pull at. And I said, actually, I think that would be the best move. After our 15-minute conversation, I think it would be best if you worked with someone else. And then he started like backpedaling. Well, I didn't mean I was going to work with somebody else, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I think being authentically yourself is one of the best things you can do for the world and for everybody else around you. Because being authentically yourself means that I can make a real judgment call on if I want to deal with you or not, if I want to hang out with you, if I want to do business with you, if I want to be friends, if I want to talk goals with you. What bothers me more than anything is people that switch. They get in one environment and they're one person. They get in another environment and they're another person. Like, I think one of the best things you can do is be authentically yourself 24/7. And dude, just let the chips fall. But that is so hard. And Al, I'd love your take on this. That's so hard to do if you have a scarcity mindset. Because I think a lot of people, especially if you're in a sales role or a business owner, if you have a scarcity mindset, you're afraid to offend somebody because you're like, well, that could be a potential customer. Dude, if you live in abundance and know that the universe is going to deliver all the customers you could ever need to provide all the service that you could ever provide, you got nothing to worry about. Bob Proctor talked to me about this as what I was getting ready to say. He said that you don't work for money. You work for pleasure and you provide service for money. So if you're waking up and going to work every day just to work for money, you're doing it wrong, man. You got to work for what makes you happy and provide a service. You render a service to get paid. Talk to me a little bit about that. I'll volley it back over to you, man.
Yeah, so going back to your comment around scarcity, I think that sometimes you can do addition by subtraction when it comes to clients and customers, right?
Yep. Love that saying.
Customers aren't all equal as far as what you have to. And same thing, whether it's insurance customers or marketing customers or recruiting customers.
Yep.
If someone takes 10 times the amount of time and energy from you or your team and pays the same amount as the person down the way, like, it would make sense to not have that person as a customer anymore. Right. Or if there's a way to charge differently, like some hey, you're paying the ass, like premium, so be it. But sometimes you have to, and again, the best thing you can do is exactly what you did in this case, where you kind of head that off before they become customers and just have a real honest conversation around where you see them. And I've had comparable conversations over the years, but one thing that you ran into that I've ran into is typically the more authentic, like your point, the more authentic I am, the more honest I am about what I'm looking for, what I'm not looking for, what really bothers me. It's like the more they want to join, the more they want to be a part of it, because it's like they can tell if you're being real or just sound like I could tell you everything you want to hear and tell you, oh, this is going to fix your problems immediately and it's going to guarantee you this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, that's not true. And so by saying, oh, by the way, these are things that piss off customers that don't understand what we do. Like, this annoys people, this annoys people, this annoys people. And then, oh, by the way, here's a list of things that annoy me. Yeah. This annoys me, this annoys me, this annoys me. And then say, look, if you're cool with all that we just talked about, like, I'd love to have you. If not, like, totally cool. I can refer you out to some other recruiting businesses that are probably more in line with what you're looking for or what you're wanting. The same thing with insurance customers. It's like, I've had, friends, quite frankly, reach out, this is years ago, like, hey, I want life insurance. Cool, let's talk. And then they ask for some prices. You get, okay, well, if it was this, is that, and here's the price. All right, cool. I'm going to go, running around by my other guy and this guy and that gal, whatever. And I'll let you know, my response in those situations is, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. I don't play that game with life insurance. That's just not this type of product, this type of thing we're talking about. This isn't it's compare prices kind of a thing. This is a big deal. So no, we're good. You go ahead and take care of business, but and that's okay.
I like that, man. You know, I'll give this to the listeners. You guys can write this down. It's an acronym I use all the time when I'm training people. It's STUD, STUD. Stands for specific next step, takeaway, urgency, and deadline. That is how you become a sales stud. Is in every interaction, you should always have a specific next step, right? You get off the call, the number of salespeople that I coach that I see them go, all right, man, well, I'll send the proposal over and, I'll follow up with you in a couple weeks. It's like, dude, you're just leaving the door open. Nail it down. Hey, what we have found is that within 72 hours, you have enough time to make a value-based decision. How about I follow up with you in 3 days? Does that sound fair, Alex? Right? Boom, nail it down. Specific next step. Takeaway. The takeaway, just like I told the guys, like, hey, I don't think we're a good fit, right? A lot of times that takeaway, they're like, no, I'm cool. I'll be fine. I'll get in line. I'll work with you guys. The urgency piece and then the deadline I always, again, the podcast, it's very easy to. A lot of podcasts these days are very surface level. Like, oh, Alex, tell us your background. Yes, okay. Well, tell us about your recruiting business. Oh, tell us about your insurance business. Like, fuck that, dude. Like, I like to get to the nuts and bolts. And I think that's why people like to listen to the podcast. So I always like to give them little gold nuggets that they can take away. Talk to me about the recruiting piece, man. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges, because I'm a big fan. I had a 72-year-old mentor when I was a high school senior and started my first business. By the time my chemistry teacher, my guidance counselor tried to talk me out of it and didn't help me, I said, fuck it, I'm going to go find my own mentor that's going to encourage me. So it happened to be the 72-year-old guy that ran the Chevy dealership. He's gone now, Herb Kinman, R.I.P. But he told me that he said, DJ, when you're finding people, when you're recruiting people to be on your team, you got to make sure that you're all going to the same place. You're all going to the same place. And when I hear business owners, Alex, a lot of times they say, oh, man, it's hard to find good people, right? So it's hard to find, good help doesn't stick around, blah, 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 right? A lot of times I'm like, yeah, maybe you should look in the mirror first. But then it's like, are you going to the same place? Talk to me about, like, when you guys are recruiting, some of the pitfalls that you see, because that's always something that stuck with me is, am I going to the same place as my team's going? But, like, what are some of the pitfalls that you see? Because obviously with working with over 1,000 clients, you've got quite the case study to look at as far as commonalities.
Sure. I think the biggest hurdle that I see small business owners making in multiple industries across the country, multiple different sizes, multiple different markets, is especially, and I'll focus on insurance right now in particular, but this is beyond insurance, thinking that there needs to be a lot of different boxes to check before getting in front of and interviewing people. And so as business owners, we oftentimes, everybody has their own thing that they want and need in their mind, and they have an idea what it looks like and sounds like and what degrees they have or whatever. And they start to really narrow their focus, and recruiting is no different than selling. It's sales, it's a numbers game. And so when we start to talk about, do we want to focus on quality or quantity of interviews? It's extremely difficult for us to determine what exactly does quality look and sound like early on in the recruiting process. And so for that reason, my message for the vast majority of small business owners is let's focus on quantity of interviews, not just the quality piece. So quick math, right? So if an insurance agent says, I want to hire a salesperson, okay, cool. All right, well now, and I'll give you a real life example. Someone in the great state of Ohio, I'm from Michigan, so I use that term a little loosely. I have family down there, so I can joke around about it. But anyway, insurance agent in Ohio, disappointed in the service. And as I investigate, turns out she wouldn't interview anybody unless the person had sales experience and an insurance license and bilingual before she'd even interview somebody, let alone hire somebody. So let's think about the population of Ohio, and we'll just focus on like bilingual first. What percentage of the population is bilingual? It rounding up by a lot, let's say 20%.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 to 10, maybe.
Well, yeah, probably less than that, but like just say 20% for simple math. All right, what percentage of population is insurance licensed? If you round to the nearest percent, it's 0%, but let's round up to 1%, right? But let's round up to 5% to make it really in their favor. So you take the 20%, the 5% of the 20%, you're leaving us with a pool of candidates of 1% of the population. And so you're comparing what we do for your peers that give us 100% of the population to the pool of candidates that you've left for us, which is less than 1% of the population, and you're expecting a comparable result.
Wow.
And that's not fair.
Yeah.
And so regardless of what business or industry you're in, you want to think about what are those things that you want that you really don't need to get in front of people to see, can this person have a great conversation? Are they likable? Do they have a great personality? Are they coachable? Are they hardworking? Are they cut from that cloth that we talked about earlier? And chances are you weren't going to determine that with a couple little assessments and a little phone screen on the resume or whatever. So like step up to the plate and interview people, increase the volume of interviews, go for quantity, not quality, quantity. You go for quantity of interviews and quality of hire after the fact.
Yeah.
Not in reverse. Right. So that to me, like if there was one little nugget of as far as recruiting goes, like think about what you've been holding out for and then look at yourself in the mirror when you got started and would you have even hired yourself?
I think I've heard you say that at one of the Five Guys events. I think you did. Like you had, you had everybody stand up? I think, don't you have everybody? Yeah, because it was like everybody stand up. Okay, now sit down if you're like this or that or this or that, and it was like out of the whole room of insurance fucking people. Like these are like everybody. There's like one, maybe two, right? Like it's like it goes to show you. Alex paints a really good picture. Which, by the way, man, from your professional speaker to another professional speaker, like your engagement with the audience, like that's a lot of people don't realize that's what makes a great speaker is like if you're engaging with the audience, you have them do those things. So like that stood out to me. I was in the back of the room. I was like, I see him working a crowd. So that was good. No, man, I can appreciate that. I've always heard this saying, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is hire the will, teach the skill. Because it's like you can teach people skill. Like, I mean, I don't know necessarily you want to go teach somebody to be bilingual, but maybe that's something that you could hang up on. But for the most part, it's like if I find a kid that's just got work ethic, right? And I'm working on this right now with Kevin Spann. He's a big Allstate agent up in New York, and he wants to get more people in the insurance business because he's like, guidance counselors don't set you down your junior year and go, well, Alex, your GPA is this, and these are your classes, these are your electives. You're a prime candidate to be an insurance agent. Have you ever considered that career path? Like that's never, and to your point earlier, you're like, I'm going to put you in this job that maybe is like your team's like, your family's like, oh, you're in insurance. But it's like, it's crazy that these jobs, like an insurance agent, is not something it's like, oh, well, what went wrong in your life, right? It's like, why'd you end up as an insurance agent? But it's such a great career that people overlook. It's fun. One of my good friends, Nathan Shanks in Louisville, he's an independent agent. He said, dude, I knew I wanted to be an insurance agent. I was like, what? No, nobody's like in high school know they want to be. He said, no, I knew because I worked at the country club cleaning golf carts. And when the guys came through, I'd say, what do you do for a living? Check. What do you do for a living? Check. And he said, and at the end of the first week, dude, it was over-indexed for insurance agents. He's like, I knew that I wanted to be an insurance agent because he wants to play golf all the time. So it's kind of crazy.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Cool, man. I know we're bouncing all over the place. We got maybe a couple more minutes. We'll wrap it up. I do want to talk about your other book you got back there. Is it Big Recruiting? It's hard for me to see because it's a little far back. Maybe you got to cut.
Small business, big recruiting.
Okay. So, there it is up close. Yeah. Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. And I'm guessing that's about planting gardens, right? No, it's recruiting, right? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, pretty much. So this book, and some will say, well, didn't you have a business that recruits for people? Yes, but this will still, whether you're with us or not, this will help you as a small business owner really win the talent war we've been struggling with for a very long time. And that's my mission really with recruiting is to put us in a position to win so we can compete with the big dogs that we've been losing to for a very, very long time. And so you're just it's an easy read. I mean, it's one of those that you could probably sit down and read in a couple of days. And you're going to get a lot of little takeaways that will make you a better recruiter. So if you are going to remain doing this yourself and wearing that recruiter hat yourself, so be it. At least do it at a high level. And this is going to help you do that.
Very cool, man. They can get that at autopilotrecruiting.com.
Yeah, autopilotrecruiting.com. And I do know this one is for sure on Amazon still.
Very cool. Very cool, man. What's something that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Oh man, that's
or maybe a question I didn't ask you that you think I should ask you.
Gosh dang, I told my wife I was doing this podcast and she's like, what are you guys gonna talk about? I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like it that way. I don't like to pre-plan stuff. I usually just comes out better if I'm just winging it. And so, for that reason, I'm struggling to answer that question. What question should you be asking me right now? But,
I call it giving yourself creative space. Some people call it winging it, but I say I give myself creative space to explore because I want to be able to, go down, and have conversations like we did today, but I don't know, man. Maybe.
Yeah, I really love the conversation around just being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, competing. I do feel, you made the correlation again between football and military and business. And, we look at the military and most would agree that's a very noble profession.
Absolutely.
And I think insurance sales is a very noble profession for a lot of reasons. But I think that, man, like outside of, you could throw obviously like nurses and teachers and police officers and firefighters, all of that mix. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner that creates jobs for people, like I don't know there's very few things that are as patriotic, in my opinion, than creating jobs in the United States. Good, fair, opportunities for families that were non-existent before. And so I really get excited. That motivates me. I love my people. You mentioned looking in the mirror earlier. You're alluding to leadership is what you were talking about. So when you have issues with team and turnover and failed hires or improper onboarding, a lot of it comes down to leadership. And so that's what motivates me. Like I like money, not going to lie, but to me, I love to compete and I love to give opportunities to people. And so I'm looking forward to continuously creating jobs, creating more businesses in the future. And, if the zeros start to stack up for me, that's cool. But honestly, like what motivates me and drives me are the people that I get to include in that journey with me. That's
cool, man. I think, and I know just from our in-person conversations that we've had, meeting you in person, you're just a real cat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know that that's genuine. It's easy for a lot of people to be like, oh yeah, I just want to like build big teams to build people. It's like that's not a talking point for you. I know that it's something that matters to you. And I think coming here and spending an hour with my audience and helping them understand some things around recruiting and your mindset around business, I know they very much appreciate it as well, man. So if anybody wants to find you on social, obviously we plugged autopilotrecruiting.com. You guys can go there. How do they find you on social media? Are you doing anything with social media? I know you got a team that helps you pump out some content there.
Yeah, I mean, Autopilot's on Instagram and Facebook. Myself, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. If you search Alex Shattuck, you'll find me. SHATTUCK. I'm not too hard to find.
Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming into Sales Factory, Alex. It's been cool, man. Time flew by. It always flies when you're having fun. We definitely look forward to having you in another episode.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, guys. Well, hey, as we head out of this episode in the Sales Factory, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, leave us a review. Helps more people find the podcast so we can change it one life at a time, baby. I'm your host, Coach Carroll. This has been another episode of the Sales Factory. Hustle, it's worth it, baby. Let's go.